News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. That's 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Well, 1 million are now dead or injured in the Russia-Ukraine war. The number of Russians or Ukrainians killed or wounded in a 2.5 year has reached now 1 million. The Journal reports today. It was a big headline story. We have 80,000 dead Ukrainian troops, 400,000 wounded. Russian casualties dead as high as nearly 200,000. And wounded around 400,000. I believe that. 200,000 Russians dead and 400,000 Russian wounded casualties, they call it. Ukrainians, 80,000 dead and 400,000 wounded. And with Ukraine, this literally is possibly going to be affecting an entire generation that may not be much of a generation, is what the report is talking about. In fact, if I look at what they said about this, it's quite interesting. Very interesting what that story said, because the subheadline talked about the amount of the generation that's literally affected and possibly going to be slightly non-existent if they're all dead or fled the country. And we're now at a critical point where I'm going to share some scary headlines with you that I've been collecting over this, because it gets worse and worse and scarier and scarier. As far as where we're at, that is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, are now deciding whether or not to allow Ukraine to shoot the missiles we provide them with inside of Russia. And every time that the Ukraine says, and their Ukrainian advocates in America say, we keep delaying permission, Biden keeps delaying permission to Ukraine to use these tools to the fullest, these war tools to the fullest extent. More and more they say that, and then eventually Biden says yes after being, demanded that, for being told that, for pushed around to do that. About 6 months, 8 months later, they let him have tanks. Then they let him have F-16s. You know how the F-16s worked out? The number one Ukrainian F-16 pilot that they trained is dead. He crashed. You know how the second one worked? He's dead. He was attacked like the first time he went up. Actually, he was killed by friendlies, I think, is what they said. You understand, the first two F-16 top Ukrainian pilots had died on the first time they went out in them. This is a joke. It's a disgrace, and it's time to end this thing. And now Ukraine and now their advocates are saying you got to let them shoot their missiles that we gave them, missiles inside of Russia. And Putin says, if you do that, that's an act of war from NATO, and I will attack NATO. Do you understand how close we are to being in a world war now? Because of Kamala and Joe? I do believe that I do agree with Trump that none of this would be happening if he were in office. Nothing. Putin stole more land from Ukraine under Obama. He didn't steal one piece of land under Trump for 4 years. And then he went back and he stole a bunch more land under Biden and Kamala. It's clear who scares him and who he won't mess with and who doesn't. So now they want to fire with inside of Russia, and I don't want that. I think it's time to end this thing. I think it's a joke. I think they're going to have to lose some land, and I think that's just too bad. And, I'm glad they get victories, and I'm glad they have a massive chunk of Russia. Apparently it's rural, but it's more than they have of Ukraine. Isn't that funny? So that's a leverage for them to negotiate with, but this is over. I'm going to share some headlines now that are really scary. I want to put out the phone number for you to call in right now at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Is it time for Ukraine to end their war with Russia? I should think it is. And do you want to continue to fund this war? Do you really think Putin actually plans to invade other countries? That's what a lot of people that are still going so crazy about Ukraine think, that Putin's going to invade other countries, and so he's not going to invade any other countries. That is the biggest load of BS. I don't know who told you those talking points, but I don't believe that at all. They're not going into any other country, but they will if they will. I mean, we're going to be dragged into a war. War has always begun, I'm quoting a general, a war is begun by mistakes. Not by, nobody puts us into a world war or a war of any kind on purpose. It was done by mistakes. And that's what this is going to be. Slow walking backwards into a war. And the more we say yes, the more we are going to be more likely to be in war and world war and NATO and everything. It's because of who we have running this country that we are this close to having a hot war there. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Is it time for Ukraine to end their war with Russia? Do you want to continue to fund it? And do you really think Putin plans to invade other countries? I think if we continue to escalate this, with missiles being allowed to send into Russia that we gave them, at what point are they going to finally say, okay, now we are at war with you? Let me give you some real scary headlines now that back up everything I'm saying and why we need to stop this thing. Russia says they could combine with China if they faced a threat. Brand new, this came in, I think, yesterday from Reuters. Russia said on Wednesday that its partnership with China was aimed at most against third countries, but the two powers could combine potential if faced with a threat from the United States. That's what Putin said publicly to the press. Today, this came out. U.S. military is seeking strategic advantages to build up Australia's northern bases amid Chinese tensions. This came out 2 days ago. A Navy SEAL unit that killed bin Laden, SEAL Team 6, is busy preparing for a possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Right now, our Navy SEAL unit there that from SEAL Team 6 is busy preparing for that invasion in Taiwan. Here's another one. Putin threatens war as Western allies near deal on missile strikes in Russia. That's what I shared with you a few minutes ago. This is from NORAD. We detected and tracked two Russian Il-38 military aircraft, once again, operating in the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone, September 15th, 2024, 2 days ago. 4 Russian aircrafts went into our airspace in Alaska. Alaskan airspace. Russian aircraft remained in international airspace. Did not enter American or Canadian sovereign space, but they detected them and tracked them operating in the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone. What else do I have? Look at this. Russia and Iran. Nobody brought Russia and China together closer and Iran together closer with them than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Russia and Iran. Iran has transferred short-range ballistic missiles to Russia. I repeat, Iran has already transferred short-range ballistic missiles to Russia that are expected to be used on the battlefield against Ukraine in the coming weeks. Short-range ballistic missiles. We're walking into a World War III here. Here's another one that I got to share. These are all scary headlines that all fit in the same topic here. Putin orders Russian army to become the second largest after China's 1.5 million strong. So Putin is now ordering the Russian army to become the second largest in the world after China. That just came out. Trump and RFK Jr. today wrote a column in The Hill. Negotiate with Moscow to end the Ukraine war and prevent nuclear devastation. And I could not agree more. It's about a three-page piece here. New York Times reported Thursday Biden is considering allowing Ukraine to use NATO-provided long-range precision weapons against targets deep inside of Russia. You guys, do you understand this? NATO giving the missiles for deep inside of Russia. That's a war. That's a war that's going to launch into I understand why he wants to attack NATO. If Ukraine gets NATO missiles that are long range and fires them deep into the country of Russia, what else can he do? He's going to strike back, isn't he? Wouldn't you? I'm not humping Putin's leg here, but dude, at some point you got to say you're like fighting for them in their. No, I mean this is it right here. This crap has got to end. Here's another piece of news, and then we're going to move on to scare crap out of you how bad this is going. This is from the South China Morning Post. United States sent unserviceable and expired military equipment to Taiwan in water-damaged pallets. We're supposed to be supplying them with all the arms and munitions to fight back against China, and moldy armor and expired ammunition were among unserviceable U.S. military equipment delivered to Taiwan recently. What are we sending them? They bought like $17 billion of arms and munitions, and we send them stuff that's molded and doesn't work? And then we're supposed to be having their back? Did you hear anything from Kamala or Joe about China? Any calling them out? No. They're the number one threat, and gosh, this is incredible. End Ukraine now, guys. End it. Okay, coming up next, I love this. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. Did you know, I'm sure you've heard by now, thousands of Hezbollah terrorists had pagers they just got. That Hezbollah, the terrorist organization, the United States terror organization, literally just told all their operatives, thousands of them in Lebanon, where they work out of, in Beruit in Lebanon, they said, stop holding cell phones. The Israelis can track us. They're tracking us. Use these new pagers. They all went out. They're all sitting in their front pocket, most of them, and they just blew up today, all at the same time. 1,300 to 1,400 pagers. And literally, their testicles, and many of these guys, their balls have been blown off. I am not making this up. It's all over my Twitter feed. I'm going to play audio of one of the guys getting blasted in his crotch. I'm not kidding you. Coming up next, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this. You can only imagine. Next on the Chris Crock Show, WBAP. Okay, y'all, this is crazy. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. Well, it's hard to believe what happened today, and it's unbelievable, truly, but it's true. The Hezbollah, first of all, is a United States designated terrorist group. They are responsible for blowing up, I think, killing 242 of our troops in a barracks in Lebanon, if I'm not mistaken, or in Beirut, I think. Double check that. That should be around 1982 or 83, I think. The Hezbollah terrorists blew up our Marine barracks, I think in Beirut or in that area of the world, and I think it's 82 or 83. October 23rd, 1983 is 242 Marines killed. 241. Okay, and that was in Lebanon, in Beirut? Yeah. Okay, so that's who Hezbollah is. They're terrorists, and they murder us. And I don't know where that's coming from. I'm going to close everything out. Oh, that's where it is. Okay. Bizarre stuff on the computer. So that's number one. Number two, they are blowing up Israeli citizens, innocent civilians. They are shooting missiles into Israel and killing Israelis, and I'm sure some Americans from time to time. There's a lot of dual citizenships there. So here's the deal. A new retaliation in all these attacks, which have just gone crazy against Israel since the October 7th war. And so Israel just launched an unbelievably major investigation. Here's what they are an attack on the terrorists. The terrorist group Hezbollah said to its members, stop carrying cell phones. The Israeli intelligence are tracking us. And that's how they're killing us and blowing us up as we kill them and blow them up. So use these new pagers. They ordered the pagers from Taiwan. And Israel intercepted the package delivery from all these 2,700 pagers. And they opened them up, each one of them, and they implanted explosives in them. and they set the explosives in each one of these. They use the deadliest explosive there is, the most dangerous and deadly explosive there is. And they blew them up all at the same time across Beirut and Lebanon, and it was so successful. And most of the people put these pagers in their front pocket, and they're men, terrorists. And boy, they literally blew their you-know-whats off. I am not kidding you. Their hospitals are. This is all on my Twitter feed. You got to follow me at Chris Crock Show, at Chris Crock Show, CHRISKROK on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There's videos in the hospital where there's hundreds of people. They're coming in. I'm going to play some of it for you in ambulances, and then inside they're all over, and they have holes blown out of the side of their chest, blown out of their balls, their testicles. Men were holding the pager in their hands, and their fingers all blew off. You could literally see men with their fingers. There's no finger on the hand. It's just sitting there bloody in the hospital, screaming in pain. Their hospitals are overwhelmed and flooded. Their balls have been knocked off. Now, producer Garrett says he's put some stuff together for me to play in response to this, and I'm deeply concerned about it. But I'm gonna let him play some things. So we're gonna play that coming up next. He says he wants to have some fun about this, and okay, we'll do that just for you, sir, since you asked. We're gonna give you some more details on this, but literally they use one of the most deadly explosives in each one of these little pagers, and they blew off their you-know-whats. They're gonna be hard to procreate from now on. I'll say that. You know what I always say? They blow up so young, you know? All right, that's coming up next in the Chris Crock Show, plus your call. The question is, do you feel this was a wise attack? Do you feel this was a wise attack? And what other brilliant attacks have you seen happen in the history of wars and attacks? Some of you guys are like people that have, studied this kind of stuff, history and different wars and attacks. Tell me some of the most brilliant things that you've seen or heard of in the history of war and attacks. Plus, we'll have a little fun with this. Pagers blowing up in the front pockets, taking out the testicles of many terrorists today across Lebanon. All that's next. Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Oh my gosh. All right, here's the video in the hospital. This is on my Twitter feed. You got to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, at Chris Crock Show. It's all the same for all three of them. At Chris Crock Show, CHRISKROK. This is the audio at the hospital where there's hundreds and hundreds of Hezbollah terrorists flooding the hospital, blown up their testes, because these pagers, Israel put explosives in all their 2,700 pagers they just ordered 6 months ago because they knew Israel was tracking their cell phones. They said, stop using your cell phone, use these pagers. This is hundreds of men in one hospital, and there's a stream of ambulances coming in, just bringing in more terrorists whose testes have been blown off. Most of these terrorists are putting these pages in their front pockets. They all blew up 2,700 today across Lebanon. This whole video, it gets worse and worse. You can see a hole in the side of a guy's body. You can see another guy with his hands, with all of his fingers blown off at the end. It's like a drawing, and then you can see these other guys. Literally, there's a hole in their pants where the testes should be. I mean, this is the best neutering program I've ever seen of terrorists. You have more? Oh, wait, actually, hold on, wait. This is an explosion at the grocery store checkout. I'm not kidding you. This guy got his testes blown off, this terrorist, from the pager that Israel sent over with explosives in it at the grocery store. Let me play it again because you can hear the blow up, the explosion. It's like from the inside surveillance stuff, so the audio is not that great. closet terrorist getting his testicles blown off because they keep these pagers in the front. Israel intercepted a pager, like 2,700 pagers being shipped from Taiwan to Hezbollah. They ordered in Lebanon. They intercepted it and put explosives. They used PET on a stable explosive instead of the other types of explosive for this operation, according to Sky News Arabic. Mossad placed explosives inside of the batteries of the communication devices, detonated all of them at the same time remotely today by increasing the battery temperature. The explosive material PETN was inserted before the devices reached Hezbollah. It's the most powerful explosive known to in the world. It's sensitive to heat and friction, which may explain the explosion mechanism. Hezbollah's chain was infiltrated. Al Jazeera adds further details. 20 grams of explosives were placed in each pager device. Hezbollah began using them 5 months ago. The state of Israel waited to blow up their testes until the time was right for them. Islamic State media is reporting their Iranian Islamic Republic of Iran, state media reporting their Iranian ambassador to Lebanon has been injured due to one of the pager explosions. He didn't have one, but somebody with him in the room did. Oh, they blew up so young. Puffy Combs arrested. Charged with sex trafficking, racketeering charges. And I got a lot to say on that. We're going to give you details. And did you know that one of the mega pastors here in Dallas, who's internationally known beyond everything, Oprah loves him. Oh, my gosh. Yes. Can I put you on my magazine this month? Oh, wait, I'm on there. How about next month? Oh, wait, I'm on there. How about in December? Oh, wait, that's my Christmas issue with me and my tree. I'm going to share that with you coming up next. The details and my thoughts and your thoughts. Do you believe Puffy Combs actually did these horrifying things? And why do you think he did them? And do you think he's going to become the next Epstein? Oh, I sure do. All that's coming up next. Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. Wow. The allegations in this are bad. Really bad. And we've heard about some of this stuff, but it gets worse and worse and worse. Let's see here. The sex trafficking by force. There's racketeering charges. There is racketeering conspiracy, prostitution, sex trafficking by force, transportation to engage in prostitution, racketeering conspiracy. Racketeering, I should say, conspiracy. He allegedly ran an enterprise that engaged in sex trafficking, forced labor, and kidnapping and arson or other crimes. He abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct from 2008 till right now. These allegations, the Yahoo News reports, actually this is from ABC, I think, or CBS, but the allegations mirror 11 civil complaints filed against him since 2023. So all the allegations with the civil have now become federal and criminal. Let me share some of the. Well, let me tell you this. Some of the details were as released by Fox News this afternoon and on the 5. He would rent hotel rooms for a week. He would bring in women, whether they were he hired male prostitutes, but the women were people he reportedly controlled through physical violence and the promise of career advancement. Combs would grant and threaten to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking her whereabouts, dictating victims' appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with a controlled substance. These rooms were filled by. He would have his associates his employees or whoever they were that he paid on his payroll, whatever, he would have them go and stock up these rooms with 1,000 bottles of lubricant, is what they said today, and ketamine and all these drugs, so that these women would be totally high for a whole week. Afterwards, the women needed weeks for their bodies to recover from these horrific, violent and disgusting sexual orgies that would go on for a week. The women afterwards needed to be hooked up to, he had them hooked up to IVs, for example, and it took them weeks for their bodies to recover from the injuries. You can only imagine the sick kind of injuries that he was inflicting on these women. And the men that he hired were prostitutes, so presumably they were abusing the women at his direction and at his hire. And there was one of the hotels today, I think the New York Post said that he destroyed a couch. It was just filled with oil, like destroyed with oil, that he left behind. So, I mean, this is about as disgusting as it gets. And I think this is what Epstein was doing, this kind of stuff that Epstein was doing. But you know what? I think the difference is Epstein had them on these islands that he owned and these places, or these massive sprawling ranches in New Mexico that he owned. And he had some really high-end clients, didn't he? In fact, that's why to this day we don't have the full list of his clients, do we? No. It's some of the most powerful people, including Bill Clinton, who was on his charter flights, and so many other ones. But I think that this is going to be similar. I think he's going to be the new Epstein. I believe these charges, and that's one of my questions for you. Do you believe that Puffy Combs did these horrifying things? Paid women and promised them career advancement and exposure in careers and then drugged them and coerced them into doing sexual orgies, and it got worse and worse and worse, and then controlled them through violence and the promise of career advancement, and gave or withhold financial support, used coercive means. But can you believe this? Tracking their whereabouts, dictating their appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, supplying them with controlled substances. I think when people become wealthy and they become powerful, it brings out the worst in most people. I think that, like when you win the lotto, for example, I think the average person, we all have faults and we all have sinful hearts, and I think the average person that has things going on in their lives that is not good, when you get that kind of wealth and power, it gets magnified. If it's not kept in check, it gets magnified, and I think that you can get away with it and do it, so it gets worse and worse and worse and worse until you become something that is the worst of the worst of the worst, and you don't realize it until you get caught and you get exposed. Some never realize it. And I think that he is this new Epstein. I think that's what he is. And I think the man, and I'm understanding that he actually, with these charges, could be put away for life, and I think he should be. And I think you're going to see that. I think he destroyed women and abused their bodies and terrorized them. And this man became so sick and evil that he was treating women like they were his dolls and doing horrible things to them and getting pleasure off of hurting them. So they're going to take it all away. When they raided his places in L.A. and Miami, they got a lot more tape. And based on everything I'm seeing here, I'll bet you they're going to have a lot of bad evidence on this guy. And a lot of people are going to be talking. Guess whose name showed up in these legal documents on the civil suits? T.D. Jakes. I'm going to share with you what the Dallas Morning News reported March 27th of this year. T.D. Jakes mentioned in Sean Diddy Combs' lawsuit, possible public image fixer. Combs, here we go. T.D. Jakes, senior pastor of the Potter's House in southern Dallas, named in the recent lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs as someone who might help rehabilitate his image. And T.D. Jakes is mentioned in Rodney Little Rod Jones, his a producer, who filed a federal lawsuit in the Southern District of New York in February 2024, accusing Combs and several of his associates of participating in sex trafficking venture. T.D. Jakes is mentioned in that legal document. It states that producer Jones states he has irrefutable evidence of Mr. Combs detailing how he planned to leverage his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact of his public image against the Cassie Ventura lawsuit, which is now some of the reasons why these are some of the very charges the feds have just made today and put him in jail. He is not going to be out on bond. They won't let him. He's a flight risk, and I agree. Let's see here. When reached by the Dallas Morning News, T.D. Jakes' representatives declined to comment. He is one of many celebrities named in this lawsuit, including Prince Harry and Cuba Gooding Jr. and rapper Young Miami. In December 2023, Jakes was accused of participating in sex parties hosted by Combs in unverified reports on social media, the Dallas Morning News reports. Jakes appeared to respond to the reports at a Christmas Eve service at the Potter's House. Christmas Eve, and this guy's talking about this. This is the worst that could happen. If everything was true, all I got to do is repent sincerely from my heart. That's all you got to do, huh? There's enough power in the blood to cover all the sins of all kind. I don't care what it is, the blood would fix it, but I ain't got to repent about this, he said. Wow. Reached about the comments on this. The T.D. Jakes' House Potter Ministry Director of Communications said to the Christian Post, recent claims circulating on pockets of social media about T.D. Jakes are unequivocally false and baseless. Jakes attended Combs' 53rd birthday party 2 years ago. All right. And, well, there you go. There's more. And none of this is good. He also partnered with Combs in a project, a sermon series called Kingdom Culture with T.D. Jakes. Okay, well, there you go. I'm going to leave it at that. That's all we got on that.